Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. This video is sponsored by contribution from Nathan. Would like to hear the Macy story on your re-education, otherwise general contribution. I've told this story numerous times, but I will tell it again because it is a good one. Now, back when I was with Macy's, this is 2004 or 2005, when after I was in Herald Square, I went to the Jersey City store. And Jersey City was the prototype for the new Macy's. Um, this is when Macy's started making their employees wear all black. They reverted back to the old logo with the red star on it. So everything that Federated Department Stores, now known as Macy Inc., which is the umbrella company of Macy's, Bloomingdale's, the old Stearns, everything that it converted from Stearns, Bon Marsh, Jordan, the Bon Marché, Jordan Marsh, Marshall Fields, all these stores converted into Macy's locations about 15, 18 years ago. Um, the store I was in at the time was Jersey City, and the reason I got sent to Jersey City is because their shortage was at almost 6% for a store that was doing 60 million a year. It was a huge number. It was out of control. The sales were like beyond expectations. They hit their 7 year. That store hit their 7 year mark, year one in sales. The big problem was the shortage, because they had put a bunch of people in there that weren't capable of doing it, and that store succeeded despite them, because they didn't realize what they had. That store was built in Newport Center, which had been revitalized on the waterfront in New York City, right by the PATH train that goes across to 34th Street. So it was an active store. That's why I was there. But early on, I'd say maybe within 6 months to a year of me being there, um, all all security directors all security directors, managers, assistants, and staff supervisors and leads were required to go through diversity training. And this is 2004, 2005. So our diversity training was over in Herald Square, and I had brought my assistant Matt. Yeah, his name was Matt. It's funny because you guys know anybody who's donated to me, and if you watch my channel long enough, you know what my government name is. You know my government name is Matthew. Um, Matthew Bryan. And it was funny. He was the best assistant I ever had, and he had prior experience with Stearns. So when he came to apply, he was applying for like a staff job. And when I looked at his account, and when I looked at his application, I'm like, Matthew Bryan. Not only was his first and middle name identical to mine, but we had the same birthday as well. It was different year, same birthday. November 15th. We're both born November 15th. We both had the same first and middle name, except his last name was Irish. Best assistant I ever had. Great guy. So he was with me, and two of my staff supervisors, um, Lizette Rodriguez and Mike Riley. Um, and Matt's last name was McMahon. So we're over there, and it was the New Jersey region, the Herald Square region, and the New York regions. Directors, managers, assistants, staff supervisors were all in this class, and some training managers as well who worked for regional training. And all this was set up by the director of training, this clown. this absolute buffoon named Bill Bragg. And me and Bill had issues dating back from when I was a friggin' store detective. Me and him would argue about stuff. And somehow, some way, he is like one of those guys who knew how to work the system, and was in the right spot at the right time, and got himself into the director of training for all of Macy's. And it, like one of these guys, all you had to do was talk to him for 30 seconds, and no, he knew nothing of what he was talking about. He knew nothing. He was a complete and utter buffoon. And everybody knew this, and everybody would talk about it. Like, I can't believe this guy. To give you an example, you know, and this is when I was in Herald Square. We had this shoplifter, and we used to catch a lot of them. We had a shoplifter, and in prisoner processing in Herald Square, it's a big squad room, and you come in through, there's two bandits, two ways in, okay? Each door had swinging bars that was controlled by a bandit barrier. A bandit barrier is one of those magnetic mag locks that, you know, you'd have to push a button to release. And so, like, this is a secure room. You come in, you got the female cell on one side of the room, the male holding cell on the other side. Long, big computer workstation with 5 computers in it. So you could process five prisoners, 5 shoplifters at a time. Computers were embedded in the inside. So, and then on the other side of the table is a long metal bench welded and bolted to the floor with a bar behind it welded with, I think it was maybe 10 to 15 sets of chained handcuffs. So you get cuffed to the bench as where, you know, after you get photoed on the wall, you get searched, photoed, everything taken from you, put on the bench, cuffed to the bench to be processed. Next to the male holding cell was a small bathroom, which is like a toilet and a sink. And for some reason, there was a mirror on the wall that I guess it had been there, you know, since the building was built. Who knows? So it was Potts' case, Vernice Potts. What, she was so good. There were just good detectives there. She catches this girl stuffing fragrance bottles up her cooch. She had 3 bottles of, like, Obsession up her cooch that she had to go in the bathroom and get back. So nobody wants to touch these things. So she gets them back and process her. And then the girl says, before she goes into the holding cell, I need to go to the restroom. Now, there's no lock on the door. It's just a swinging door. She goes in there. All of a sudden, you hear a smash. Like, she smashes the window, smashes the mirror, picks up a shard of glass, comes and starts trying to cut her own throat. Now, like, oh shit, she's got a fucking... So there were like 3 or 4 other detectives processing cases in there. I come in there. The guy who ran the room, this guy Ron Reagan, he was one of the NYPD processors that we had, who would type up the cases. He's back there. They're fighting with her, trying to get this glass away from her. I jump up on top of the counter as I'm trying to, like, just control everything from there, trying to, like, get it back, get her, like, I'm trying to run it. In walks Bill Bragg. As we're down there, there's like blood on the floor, okay? These guys are trying, and he walks in and he goes, oh, do you have all 5 steps for this case? I'm like, Bill, get the fuck out now. And, like, he just, like, turned around and walked out. Like, what kind of fucking like, you want to ask that question? Like, first of all, you had no reason to ask the goddamn question, okay? We recovered 3 bottles out of her fucking pussy, okay? We got it. think we got it. Okay? These guys are on the floor with this girl trying to wrestle a shard of fucking mirror as she's already sliced into her neck and there's blood coming out. You got the fire, so get the fuck out. So that's the mentality of fool we're dealing with here, who brought in and said, we all need to go to diversity training. And the reason they do, so they have something, he has something to write on his resume. So he brings in this woman, black female, and he sells it to us, to a room full of security executives and supervisors. There's got to be 300 years worth of freaking experience in that room already, okay? And he sells it to us that she's an ex-detective, ex-security security associate with us, so she understands where we're coming. So she understands where we're coming from. So the class opens up, right? And she's like, we're going to say what's on our mind here. And if somebody's feelings are hurt, you just raise your hand and you can just yell out, ouch. So, okay. First line out of her mouth, she goes, I don't care if you white people all go home and put your white hoods on after this. And we're like, what? Excuse me? What the fuck did you just say to us? She's like, well, I'm not really saying, I'm like, wait, what are you what? What? You don't know what? What are you talking about? Now, this was a 2-day class, and right from the get, every word out of her mouth we challenged. She was saying one ridiculous thing after the next, how white people are all racist and we're all, how we thinking, our thinking patterns. And this is going bad for her real quick. And I'm one of the ringleaders fighting with her. Mike was one of the ringleaders fighting with her. Tara from training, Jamie from training, what was her name from Livingston? What the hell? I can't remember her name. The director from Livingston's in her ass. Scarborough's in her ass. We're just in, and there's 25, 30 of us in this class. We are just in her ass because every fucking thing she says is just so ridiculous. Example, she gives us this story of the racism when she's out on a vacation safari in Australia. How she was mistreated by these Australians because she was black. And as she's getting into the story, it's finally revealed that, she's like, everything was going great, until I spoke up and I started talking, and then everything just changed. And I'm just scum, and I'm just this, and these white people, I'm like, excuse me, excuse me. You were with these people for 2 to 3 hours, right? Yeah. And it took them 2 to 3 hours. Before those 2 to 3 hours, before you spoke up, they were great. They were treating you fine, right? Yeah. Okay. Were they all blind? No. So it wasn't until you spoke and they heard you speaking in an American accent did they have a problem with you. And you can see every time we gave her one of these, the light bulb would go off in her head because she really was dumb. She really was dumb. And I'm like, and this is 2004, 2005. This is height of the Iraq War. America sucks. Americans were arrogant. I'm like, why do you think it took them until you opened your mouth for them to have a problem with you? Don't you think the problem is that you were just an American, not that you were black? They could obviously see you were black. You were with them for 2 to 3 hours until you opened your mouth. And that's when her voice started cracking, like she was tearing up, about to cry. And this is when dummy Bill Bragg tries to walk in and tries to jump in and talking about, well, if you ever saw Crocodile Dundee 2, and if you see that, I'm like, and I said to him, Bill, I'm having a serious conversation here. I'm like, Bill, I'm being serious. He goes, I'm being serious too. I'm like, no, Bill, no, you're not. I'm being serious. You're bringing up fucking Paul Hogan sequels. What are you doing? What are you doing? So it was just like statement after statement after statement like these that she would bring up. And we kept giving her scenarios in like in our personal experience in shoplifting, in dealing with shoplifters and different races, different backgrounds, different locations, how the the fact that the Brooklyn store catches more black people than the Paramus store does. A, it's a bigger store. B, more black people live around the Brooklyn stores than live in Paramus. It's a demographics issue. And then as the more she talked about it, and the more she talked about it, finally I asked the question. I asked this question. I go, suppose we keep hearing that you used to work for us. I'm like, when, where, and for how long? Well, she's like, well, this is back in the early '80s, and I was with you guys for 2 weeks. I'm like, 2 weeks. And I turned around and I looked at my ex-vice president, Larry, because he was in there, and because me and him were close and we had a real funny relationship. I'm like, did you know about this? And he's like, no. And I turn around, I'm like, Bill, what the fuck? He's like, what do you mean, what the fuck? I'm like, you're selling this woman, giving her credibility, okay? That she used to work for us, she's been through it, she's been on the floors, she's made apprehensions, she's made arrests, she's had a fight with people, That's why we should give her credibility, that we should listen to her. Meanwhile, you said this woman's been worked for us for 2 fucking weeks. 2 weeks. You're the director of training. So that means either one or two things. A, you're either lying, or B, you have no concept of what we actually do here. If you think that a woman that has worked for us for 2 weeks can come in here and lecture people that have been working for this company for 10, 15, 25, 30 years, just shows you have no business having the job. This is just horrendous. And he goes running out, okay? And I guess he tried to go run to, and he ran to Tom Rohn, the group vice president of security, like our big boss, who answered directly to the CEO of the company. And he sticks his head in, he kind of points at Larry and has Larry come in. And then has Larry come out to go to him. And when Larry came back in, he's kind of laughing. And, Larry went out there with Bill, and Larry's like, I told Tom. He's like, this is nonsense. I'm like, he's trying to sell this to a group of people, okay, that have more experience. Like, what are you doing? And then Tom got pissed. And next time Bill came, his face was, he had run white in the face. Because this is just going, and this woman wanted no part of us anymore. Because she realized she was outmatched. And the other point I made is Bill, you got trained investigators in here, people that have been investigating people for some decades. You trained us. You paid to have us trained. You paid to have companies come in here and to make us experts on body language, neurolinguistics, interview tactics. It is our job to know when somebody's fucking lying to us. Yet you thought you could tell us that we should believe her because she's worked for us with 2 weeks of experience, and we weren't going to all see through this. It was just bonkers. So At the end of this, they bring in this new position, the head of diversity for the company. Gay black guy comes in to basically, again, tell us what a bunch of racists and, hypocrites we are, and, we don't understand. But this isn't about race. This isn't about, oh, it's not. He's like, a lot of people find your job offensive. And again, I had to shot my mouth off. And I'm like, well, I find your job offensive. What do you mean? What do you mean my job's offensive? Just by your position, your whole job is to go around and tell white employees, okay, that they're inferior, that there's something wrong with them, just by the nature of your position. It's like, that's not true. I'm like, oh, it's not? I'm like, okay, let me ask you this. I'm sure in your position as head of diversity, okay, you have counterparts in other companies and other areas. Well, oh, absolutely. Yes, I do. Yes. I'm like, okay, great. Could I have a name, email, number of one straight white male diversity trainer that you know? Well, why is that important? I'm like, can you name one? Not even give me, just name one. Just name one. Give me one. That's not the point. I'm like, that is the point. The whole purpose of your job is to go around telling white people and minorities who work in security that they're guilty of some kind of white supremacy bullshit. And this is back in 2005. He just turned right out the door last time I saw him. Last time I ever dealt with him. This plan, these re-educations, this diversity push, this has been in the works for a long time. A long time. And it was funny because, when we all got back to our store, like, word about this spread like wildfire through the rest of the company to other regions. Because you couldn't get every executive from the region, so it was done in parts. So maybe it was like half the region was there, half the Jersey region was there, half the New York region was there. So the other people heard about, like, and we were getting like, what went down with this? And everybody was like, it was the most insane thing you've ever experienced in your life. And this has been a push in these companies now for going on almost 2 decades. They've been doing this. So it should be no wonder why we're in the position we're in with all this nonsense where you can't say anything, everybody's offended. It's been set up like this going for 20 goddamn years. The problem was they did it to the wrong division. You can't, especially with the group that was in there. I mean, there were experienced interrogators, experienced interviewers, experienced investigators in that room, trained to know when people are lying, and that and this is the other thing I said to Bill. That means you have no, and I told Bill, this means you have no concept of what we actually do, or you have no respect for us. But he had no clue like that we could add, because he'd never done anything. He was an idiot then. He was an idiot. He's an idiot now. He had gotten fired a long time ago with the old Macy's company, but because when it got retaken over by Federated, technically a new company, and somebody brought him back and saved him because they felt bad for him. They made him like an assistant trainer back in the day, and he weaseled his way up somehow, and then it was too late. And then to fire the director of training, Tom Rohn was never going to do that, because then he would have to admit, because Tom came from operations as well. He knew nothing of security either. So, the shit they did to that company, man. I just talked to Larry yesterday, and I asked him, I'm like, could you imagine if we had to do what we did in Herald Square in 2023. He's like, yeah, we'd all be sitting next to Trump in court right now. I asked him, like, do you have any idea what the shortage is these days? He goes, it's right back to what it was, $27 million. And the sales are not what they were even in 1990, are not what they were in 90, 98, 99 when we first got there. So it's even worse. And they did it to themselves. Their diversity themselves right in the friggin' bankruptcy, right in the weakness. And you know what? They deserve it. You know? Don't sit through these re-education trainings. They're toxic, they're poison, and you know, they're a joke. And when you can just challenge, just listen to what's on. If you have to sit through them, fight them. Listen to their nonsense and fight their nonsense, because it is easy to pick apart. They are little snowflakes. And the diversity trainer cried. I mean, there's nothing that made me happier than making the diversity trainer cry, and then making the new head of diversity run out the fucking room. Just tell me one straight white male who's a diversity trainer. If this isn't about telling white males what a pieces of shit they are, okay, show me one straight white male that's a diversity trainer. Just one. So, that's my re-education story. Thank you so much, Nathan, for the contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my channels on Rumble. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.